Have you ever wondered what actually happens when someone gets charged with a crime in Fairfax County, Virginia? I mean, it's one of the busiest legal systems in the entire state. So today, we're going to break down exactly how it all works, step by step. Let's dive in.
Okay, if there is one single thing you take away from this whole explainer, let it be this. The criminal process in Fairfax is, and I can't stress this enough, highly structured and deadline-driven. This isn't just, a suggestion or a loose set of guidelines. We're talking about a rigid local system where every single deadline is taken incredibly seriously.
So, what is this Fairfax way people talk about? What really makes it stand out from other places? Well, it all boils down to a few key things you absolutely need to know. Think of it like a set of perfectly interlocking gears. The court has these super strict rules and really detailed pretrial requirements, which lets them manage cases with incredible efficiency. But what does that really mean for a defendant? Well, it means the pressure is on from day one. You have to be prepared right out of the gate, because in this system, there is just no room for error or for being late. All right, so an incident happens. What's next? Let's walk through those first critical hours, because this is the moment the clock officially starts ticking. Everything kicks off with either an arrest or a summons. Now, if it's an arrest, you're taken in for processing. And what you have to understand here is the speed. A magistrate reviews the case for probable cause and sets an initial bond almost immediately. This isn't some slow, drawn-out affair. It's a super rapid sequence of events that leads right into a formal bond hearing. So what even is bond? The simplest way to think about it is as a promise. It's your promise to the court that you're going to show up for all your future court dates. A judge is going to look at things like your criminal history, whether you're a flight risk, and any potential danger to the community to decide what kind of promise is needed. So after these first few steps, the case comes to this huge fork in the road. And depending on how serious the charge is, it's going to get funneled down one of two totally different legal paths, which are handled by two completely different courts. And here's that big divide laid out for you. On one side, you've got the General District Court, or GDC. That's for misdemeanors, traffic stuff. On the other side, you've got the Circuit Court. That's for the really serious felonies and jury trials. And trust me, which court your case ends up in is going to define pretty much everything that happens next.
It's a really common misconception that the big show is always the trial. But the truth is, a huge amount of a case gets decided long before anyone ever steps foot in a courtroom for a trial. This is what we call the pre-trial phase. And welcome to what I call the pre-trial battle. This is where the real legal trench warfare happens. Lawyers are exchanging evidence, they're challenging the prosecution's case, they're laying all the strategic groundwork. And in Fairfax, this whole stage is just an intense race against the clock. So during this phase, you have a few key things happening. Discovery, that's the formal process where both sides have to share all their evidence. Then attorneys file motions to argue legal points, maybe trying to get illegally obtained evidence thrown out. And the whole time, plea negotiations are going on in the background. And remember, the Fairfax courts have really strict deadlines for filing all of this stuff. As a matter of fact, a massive number of cases never even see a trial. They get resolved through these plea agreements. It's basically a negotiation that could lead to, say, reduced charges or a different sentence recommendation. It's a way to find a resolution without having to go through a full-blown trial.
But what happens if a deal isn't reached? Well, then we move into the final stages, the trial itself, the verdict, and if there's a conviction, the sentencing and everything that comes after. If you want the perfect example of just how deadline-driven this whole system is, this is it. After you're convicted of a misdemeanor, you have exactly 10 days to appeal. Not 11, not 12, 10. And that deadline is absolute. It is strictly enforced. Now, if there is a conviction, the sentence isn't just some random number a judge comes up with. It follows Virginia's official sentencing guidelines. This is a whole framework that gives a recommended punishment range based on how serious the crime was and the defendant's prior record. A judge can look at other things too, but these guidelines are the starting point. Now, through this entire, let's be honest, complicated and intimidating process, there is a constant shield. A shield that protects an individual at every single stage. And we're talking, of course, about your fundamental rights. From the second of an arrest all the way to a final verdict, these rights are always there. They are non-negotiable. The right to stay silent, the right to a lawyer, the right to challenge evidence. These are the foundational principles that make sure that this very strict process is also a fair one. And all of this brings us to one final, crucial question. In a system that is so structured, so defined by its strict procedures and its relentless deadlines, what is the single most important decision a person can make? As we've seen today, the answer almost always comes down to one thing: how early and how well they get prepared for the long road ahead.